Right. So we see people still joining, like every few seconds, but we will start our event. So, dear friends and partners from all over the world, good evening, good morning, and thank you for joining us today for this expert panel in partnership with Blockchain Australia and Austrade. My name is Uzi Scheffer, and I am the CEO of SOSA. Before I say a few words about SOSA and today's event, I would like to welcome the recently appointed Australian ambassador to Israel, the Honourable Paul Griffiths. Paul, welcome to Israel. We're very excited to have you here with us today. And yeah, we hope to see you in person soon as well. We certainly look forward to working with you. I'm sure that with your exceptional experience in both diplomacy and the tech world, we will take the Tel Aviv landing pad to new heights for the benefit of the tech community. SOSA is a global open innovation company that works both on the demand side and on the supply side of open innovation. Demand side meaning usually large organizations. So we work with companies such as HP, Schneider Electric, RBC, and others. And we help them identify technologies that prepare their business to the future. Supply side meaning the work that we do with startup companies from all over the world, helping them shape their business models and products and build the right network for global scale. Austrade's Landing Pads program has really been the role model amongst governments, and we speak with some governments from all over the world since its inception in early 2016. And we are honored to have been chosen as your partner in Israel for the fifth year now. Naïla will soon tell us all about this unique program and how you can benefit from participating in our bootcamps and events. But first, I would like to invite Ambassador Paul Griffith to share with us a few words. Paul, the stage is yours.
Thanks very much, Uzi, and I really look forward for the viewers. I can't see everyone there, but who's on. But I understand we've got quite a large number of participants today. I can see we've got 36 people, which is fabulous, and I hope to get to SOSA soon when the skies lift and lockdown lifts here. Look, welcome everybody to the blockchain webinar. What I thought might be useful is if I just sort of paint a bit of a picture of where Israel is at the moment, as a bit of a lead-in before you sort of dive deeper into the agenda that you have here. I've no doubt that everyone's sort of heard about the startup nation and heard that term already. Israel really is an island economy in many ways. It's a country that's fairly resource rather poor, and that's forced a large amount of innovation and use of brain power here in Israel, which is frankly quite remarkable to see even in the short time that I've been here. We look at it as a very, very promising market for Australian business in particular. If you look at the statistics of the past 20 years or so, it's really growing considerably, and in a lot of sectors and areas that are of great interest to Australia and of great interest and have potential great impact on Australia as well. So, as a middle-income OECD country, a really dynamic and vibrant and very focused and has strong credentials on sort of defence, communications, IT, AI, medtech, biotech, agtech, those kinds of things, and smart mobility. So what we really have is a fantastic combination of government and research and military and commercial collaboration that makes it a really dynamic economy. And if I can just pull out a couple of statistics to illustrate that point, there's over 6,000 active startups here, an economy dominated by industrial high-tech and entrepreneurship, a lot of contribution to strengthen productivity, focus on strengthening productivity for small businesses, a strong entrepreneurial culture and a large talent pool, the highest percentage of engineers and scientists per capita in the world, and one of the highest ratios of university degrees. An uncommonly large share of young and highly innovative, high-growth firms, especially in the tech sector, and very large venture capital market, one of the largest in the world, in fact, as a share of GDP. And that's really led to a number of other big-name companies coming into this market as well, like Intel, HP, Microsoft, Apple, Facebook are all sort of based here, Cisco, Toshiba, and Philips. So there's a real sort of dynamism here that really quite fabulous, and it's sort of buttressed by over 25 sort of privatized incubators across the country that really sort of nurture companies from seed to the early years. So welcome again. I'll stop there. These sort of figures actually demonstrate the dynamic environment that we've got here. The Australian government, federal and state and industry is really active and engaging actively here to both sort of work together with Israel and promote bilateral business, but also to push things along at both ends. So welcome again, and I'll let everyone dive into the to the agenda proper, and I hope it's beneficial. Cheers.
All right, thank you, Paul. Again, very, very excited to have you with us today and with us in Israel. Thanks a lot for that, for these words. So now I'm pleased to introduce Naïla. Naïla is the Consul-General in Milan and the Trade and Investment Commissioner.
Privatized incubator.
Oh, sorry, Paul. I heard your connection going off, so I jumped in. Can you hear me, Paul?
I can hear you, Uzi. No, oh. I hand it over to you. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool. Amazing. Thanks a lot for that.
Cheers.
Cheers. So I'm pleased to introduce now Naïla. Naïla is the Consul-General Milan and Trade and Investment Commissioner, Italy and Israel. Naïla, good morning.
Good morning, Uzi. Good morning, everyone. Thanks. Firstly, a big thank you to our landing pad program partner in Tel Aviv, SOSA Open Innovation, who continues to do a really fantastic job of connecting Australian startups into the Israeli ecosystem. And I also have to say thank you for this webinar to Blockchain Australia, and a very special shout out to Steve, who has been really instrumental in bringing the Australian and Israeli blockchain players closer together. As Uzi mentioned, the Australian government's landing pad program is now in its 5th year, and to date, we've worked with more than 350 companies across our 5 locations. In Israel alone, we've worked with over 90 companies over that period to really help startups tap into the experience and the expertise of the Israeli market. As Austrade, our focus in this landing pad program is really to work with Australian startups with the support of key partners like SOSA to really help the next generation of high tech and high growth companies to go global by saving you time and helping you to meet those contacts that you need to meet to help you grow your business internationally. And we do that working through sessions that really focus on your pitch, validating your business model, accelerating your access to contacts in a particular network. And this is where we see really strong value from partners like SOSA and Blockchain Australia to help make this happen. We work with SOSA working through boot camps and cohorts. We deliver one-on-one mentoring sessions with corporates and venture capitalists from the Israeli ecosystem, or we deliver webinars like these ones that give you actionable insights to really help you dive into the business environment, understand what's happening in the ecosystem, and take away learnings and key expertise to help you grow your own business. To date this year, we've run 2 virtual boot camps. We've transitioned our traditional in-person service offering and residency program in Tel Aviv to a virtual offering. And this is really to ensure that we continue to support our companies through this challenging time with their global ambitions. So keep an eye out on SOSA's page, keep an eye out on the Austrade social media channels. We've got more exciting things coming up, whether it's webinars and other boot camps that we will be delivering shortly. And really what excites us most about Israel is what the innovation ecosystem has to offer. It's really one of the most entrepreneurial, connected, and successful globally. It's solutions oriented, open to sharing experience, learnings, successes, and failures. And this is really where we see the unique value proposition of the Israeli market. And so today, some of the insights you will hear from the panel will be exactly this. And we hope that you can take away some of these actionable insights to help you grow your own business internationally. So Uzi, handing back to you.
Thank you very much, Naïla. Thank you, and good morning. It's even earlier where you are, right, than Tel Aviv.
Yes, 1 hour behind Tel Aviv.
All right, so good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, and again, thank you. I think that we are, I remember our conversations from March and April, like this year, this strange COVID year, and I'm so happy that we chose together to move forward and to really keep delivering and keep connecting the Australian ecosystem to Israel and to our global network remotely. We are past 2 boot camps, one agri-tech, one blockchain. We're past a few webinars like this one. And I'm very happy that we get to keep build this bridge remotely and find new ways to operate, because that's I think what we all need to do at this time. So thank you for that. So now let's get to business, and I will hand it over to Omri from our team. Omri will present our panelists. Omri is leading the governmental programs at SOSA and was actually the first, he was the landing pad manager in Tel Aviv when we just launched the program in early 2016. So Omri, hi. Morning to you too, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, everyone in Israel. Good afternoon to all of our guests in Australia. Thank you, Uzi, for inviting me. So I was very lucky to be chosen by the Australian government to lead the landing pad program here in Israel in the past 4.5 years. And since then, I've joined SOSA to lead the government partnerships. Like Uzi mentioned, and I want to say just a few words about that, we really just 3 weeks ago finished our second online bootcamp for Australian startups, this time in the blockchain sector. We chose incredible companies, really 7 companies from all across Australia who use blockchain technology to really disrupt a variety of sectors, from ag tech to financial technologies to water and government technologies. And we organized a group of incredible speakers, founders, investors, sales, marketing, to really help them scale their company globally. And we thought it would be a great idea to share some of the knowledge that this group received with the rest of the Australian blockchain ecosystem. And thanks to Steve's help and Blockchain Australia, we were able to do this. So thank you, everyone. So without further ado, I want to invite the important people to open their cameras. And first, I want to invite Ron Goldshtein. Some of you might find him as Ron Goldie. Ron made entrepreneurship a career out of entrepreneurship. I would say he's a pro entrepreneur. And when it comes to successful and failures, right, Ron? You can talk about that. And he's now in his 9th company called First. He's the CEO of First, which is in the digital asset space, and he will tell you more about it. And I will let Ron take the floor from here and introduce the rest of the panel. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.
All right, thanks, Omri, and thank you, everyone, Uzi, Paul, everyone who's joining from Australia. I hope you're having a good afternoon, good evening. For the Israeli people, good morning. You'll have to excuse us. It's almost 8:45 here, so our English might not be as polished as it is during evening times. So thank you, Omri, for that kind introduction. First of all, I want to bring on board, I see we already have here Lior, Messika from Eden Block, and Michelson, also here from GK8, and of course, Gadi, who all will introduce themselves in a second. So just to reiterate what Omri said, my name is Ran Goldie, and I've been an entrepreneur for, I would say, too long. Omri said I made a career out of it. I would say that a serial entrepreneur is probably a failed entrepreneur, because if you have a very good startup and your first hit and you made $1 billion, maybe you don't want to be an entrepreneur anymore. You might be in Thailand, but I keep doing those. So I'm now the CEO of a company called First, and we've been focusing for the past year on helping Facebook and Libra get the Libra project up and running. But that's not what we're going to talk today. We're going to talk about lessons from the Israeli ecosystem, the blockchain and crypto ecosystem. So without further ado, I would love it if every one of the panelists here will give a 30-second intro about themselves. Happy if you could start.
Sure. Thanks, Ron. So hi, everyone. My name is Michelson. I'm leading the sales and business development at GK8, coming from a technical background. And for the past 4 years, was working with leading financial institutions, provide them infrastructure to improve security or digital efforts. GK8 is a cybersecurity company. What we do is that we work with leading financial institutions globally, provide them a full end-to-end platform to manage and safekeep their digital assets with the highest insurance in the market. So we're introducing a radically new way to protecting digital assets and providing the financial institution the safest way to do it. Thanks, Ron.
Thank you, May. And if you don't know, GK8, I think about 6 or 12 months ago, offered a prize for hackers if they could hack their system. No hacker got the award, but if there are any hackers in the crowd, please feel free to hack away. Gadi, to you.
Hi, thank you, Ran. My name is Gadi Ruschin. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Wave, WaveBL actually. WaveBL is a documentary solution, which means that we use the blockchain technology in order to digitize international trade, starting from the famous bill of lading, which is not really famous, but still we like saying that. And we work with large carriers, banks. We do have some work also in Australia, but mainly in New Zealand these days in this part of the world. And thank you very much for taking a look at our ecosystem.
Thanks, Gadi. Lior, to you, please.
Hello, everybody. So I'm Lior Messika. I'm the founder and managing partner at Eden Block, which is an early stage venture capital firm that specializes in valuable implementations of blockchain technology. It's been 3 years now that we've been, I guess, knee deep in this ecosystem, investing in companies and supporting founders that we have found to be extraordinary and as well as important. So actually, quick fact, we've invested in GK8, a company where Mai is currently working and leading the sales. So there's a lot more to talk about. Very excited to be here. We'll uncover a lot more as the conversation goes on.
Perfect. Thank you, all three. So I'll say this to the audience. We want this to be productive. We want this to have an impact on your lives. We want you to say, I divide my life before this panel and after this panel. So if there's anything that you want to ask, please feel free to write that in the chat. I hope that the chat is open. If not, it's even easier for us. We'll just say whatever we want. So let's start. Let's zoom out for a second. It's 2020, and I don't know if you've been looking at what's happening with Bitcoin, but obviously it's now becoming a thing again. I got questions from a taxi driver this week. Right, so it means that we're about to launch again, but the companies that we have here I would say are not in it for the Bitcoin price, or not in it because of the Bitcoin price, because we have GK8 who started around 2017, 18, if I recall. I think Eden Block, you said about the same, 3 years. Wave is probably the more senior company. Gadi, if I remember correctly, it was 2014, 15 when you originally started. But everyone here experienced crypto winter, right? You remember, let me move aside to see the bear and the Bitcoin. So everyone here experienced crypto winter. So I guess my first question would be to you, Lior, as an investor. What company now, especially after crypto winter, especially after we had all those burns, what companies are you looking for in blockchain?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and there's a quick answer and there's a longer one, much longer one. I'll try to stick to the quick one. So in terms of, I guess, taking a step back and understanding kind of where the space went and where the space is today, I think that beyond, I guess, the climate that has changed and is ever changing, especially in such a young industry, I think that fundamentals never change. And so when it comes to real pragmatic use cases for blockchains across a variety of different industries that do tend to add value, that do tend to enable new use cases or even business cases, I believe that the most fundamental thing is still there, and that's innovation. And so I think that when it comes to So look, Eden Block has decided to invest in 3 investment verticals, and this is where we are really focused. And I think that that would be the short way to answer your question. We believe that, you know, the 3 most, I guess, important areas for blockchain disruption are financial services and assets, data and privacy, and last but definitely not least, the supply chains of the future. And so encapsulating, I guess, all of which I think blockchain could really do in terms of the properties that the blockchains retains and the kind of things that we can build out of blockchain. We started to focus on those 3 verticals when making investments, and so far I guess the fundamentals have not changed when it comes to these verticals.
Okay, thanks. I want to ask you, Gadi, you've been here, I said this a minute ago, you've been here probably the longest in terms of company, and you went through the winter and everything. How does it feel to be an entrepreneur that has so many scars in the blockchain space, and what keeps you moving forward? Inspire the audience. And
usually food, but so I'll tell you what, in general, we do feel the price in our traction, let's say it like that, which means that the higher the price, the more we get questions, and we see the trends changing. It started with Bitcoin, then it moved to blockchain, then it moved to DLT. So the terminology is changing, but also the mindset of the different people. They start with Bitcoin is terrible, then Bitcoin is great, then crypto assets is the way to hide your funds, and then it changes again. But to be honest, Wave specifically is only enjoying the PR because we have nothing to do with coins or with prices at all. We even managed to escape the ICO timing, which means that we never made any ICO. We were not convinced, let's say it like that. So if you want to summarize exactly what happens when people are hearing that I started the company, actually it started back in 2013 when we started. Before Wave, we had some ideas that were not launched. So the main question is, why didn't you buy more Bitcoin and then you didn't need all of this? So we do see major changes. However, it's not really affecting the technology itself, only the buzz around it.
Okay, so what kept you going essentially is that you bought Bitcoin early on and you don't care what happens.
I didn't buy. You know, the proper answer is always, how much did you buy? Not enough. This is what everyone will say. So what kept us is I'm coming from trade, and I guess that you will touch it a little bit in the future. And I just knew that it needs to be changed. And the only technology that can solve this, I would say, 500 years problem of using paper documents is mainly the fact that there was no technological solution. It's not because the industry is antiquated, and the blockchain is the only solution that can solve it. And we believe that we have a very good chance on succeeding in this very important mission, and this is what keeps us going.
Maybe if I could add one point to Gadi's point here.
Wait, before you add something, I'm sorry, I don't have the ability for some reason to mute people. So if the organizers can add that would be great. But I want you guys to remember, we are talking to entrepreneurs. We want them to get points and benefits from this panel. Keep your answers short so we can have as many questions as possible and as many insights. Go ahead, Lior.
Yeah, no, so quick point on Gadi's journey, and I think that this is definitely something specifically for the entrepreneurs in on this call here. It's the idea that Gadi was able to use blockchain and have it as part of a real functioning business with real revenues and I guess real collateral, and IP behind what they've been building. And so I think it's very easy for crypto or blockchain entrepreneurs to think of a great idea, raise an ICO or kind of fall in that trap. But I think especially with Gadi's company falling into this supply chains of the future story, I think that there's a lot to say about real companies building real products out of these new technologies.
Thank you. So May, to you, I want to ask you a very practical question. You're responsible for marketing, for business development, and again, you're in a startup, so you're responsible for everything that you and the founders decide that you're responsible for, probably with a marketing expertise on it. But now during COVID, you run a business that is supposedly its clients are banks or financial institutions. That is very high touch. That means that usually, if we were talking about 6-7 months ago, you would fly to your customers and you would convince them that GK is the best thing ever. What do you do now? What do you recommend to entrepreneurs to think about maybe differently from a marketing and business perspective?
Well, that's true. Usually I'm spending half of my time abroad, but to be honest, I find it a lot more productive working from home. Not because everybody is doing it. So we're talking to Wells Fargo, and suddenly his kids are jumping into the room. So everybody's working in that same environment, and everybody is approachable now, a lot more approachable because everybody's online. So everybody's are attending online conferences, and you have an app, a networking app in the event to talk in. You have LinkedIn, you have different channels, you have partners, local partners.
So you're saying basically the opposite. Feel free to approach everyone because they're way more approachable today.
They're way more approachable. They're always online. If there used to be physically in meetings that took forever, now everything is time constrained. Like you have 1 hour for that meeting and that's it. The Zoom is ran over, you have another call. So I think everyone are, well, from my perspective, are much more productive. Everybody is more attentive. And in terms of GK8, COVID did amazing for us because it really pushed the digital expansion. Also, we hear about new blockchain initiatives all the time because people understand that everything needs to be digitalized. Touching with Gadi company to GK8 with digital assets, whether it's cryptocurrency, whether it's trading. So nobody wants to physically send everything needs to be online, digitalized, to be able to send it, to sign on it in the most secure way. And so I think for us, the blockchain company, this COVID really helped push this industry forward.
Okay, thank you. Lior, I really wanted to ask you, assuming we will have great entrepreneurs here on the call and assuming they will meet a VC, some VCs are, I wouldn't say better than others, but some VCs are shit. So
you can say that. You can say that. Yeah.
No, it's okay. I'm much more blunt than that. I think our Aussie peers here are also blunt sometimes, so it's fine. When should a startup just walk away from a VC and say, I don't care how good you are, this term sheet is insulting or something?
Okay, so again, this question has so many layers, and so let me just start by saying that I don't think that VC is the only way for you to start your company or to scale your company. And I think that venture capital is a very specific class of investor that allows for amazing things to happen. But specifically, in that range, just like you have bad founders, or, basically 90% of companies don't usually get to the place where they want to get to in many of the cases. So I think there's a lot of investors that, either are backing appropriate companies or just throwing their money, especially in the blockchain space. I think what we're seeing is there's a lot of generalists that are now trying to enter the space. There's a lot of specialized focus funds like Eden Block that are now targeting the space. And I think that there's a lot of, I guess, problems in finding the right fits between founders and investors, namely because either way, the technology is very difficult to work with and very difficult to develop with on the business side, right? So maybe on the technical side, it's even easier because technology, wise, then development wise, it's relatively.
Lior, why would a startup walk away? What's a red line? What should a VC not do?
What a VC needs to not do is if your VC doesn't understand you, then there's no way for you guys to work well together. And again, it really goes back to what you want from a VC. But what I like to say to my founders is, if I don't understand your company better than anybody else on the cap table, then I don't want to be an investor in your company. And so I think that that's my perspective, but there's a lot of VCs with different ones, and founders need to understand what they're looking for from a VC. That's, you know, the first property.
Okay, perfect. That's great. I want to pick up a question from Carrie Reagan. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. The question was if we could define a startup, because running a business that's a small business that's self-funding, is that also a startup? Well, obviously there's no clear definition in this world. You can read 10 books and get 20 different ideas of what's a startup. I will tell you that at least the way I look at a startup, and again, this is my 9th startup, I think a startup is it's a business that until you figured out how it scales and until you figured out what that product market fit, and you switch from that point in time where you're trying things out, you're still doing a lot of high touch business development. When you turn that into an effective sales machine with a product market fit, then you have a company. Until then, you have an experiment. And we're all doing those experiments all the time, right? So Gadi, I wanna ask you, please, if there's, you said 2013, even not 14, so that's like 7 years now. What, as an entrepreneur, try to remember that moment where, you know, you probably had a lot of roller coasters, like your happiest moment as an entrepreneur, and maybe if you want to share your lowest moment that, you know, that stuck with you.
So we are big believers in, and this also relates to the Israeli spirit, which is in your face, basically, which means that whenever someone does not believe in the idea or in the concept, and we've had so many along the years, so proving them wrong is, I would say, it's a very bad thing to say about yourself, but we have to be honest here if we are talking about Israeli entrepreneurs. So proving others wrong is excellent, is an excellent use case for a happy moment. For example, we got, after I think 3 years of experience in the blockchain space, someone came, I think it was a big, it was a respectful US investor, which said, you didn't understand the blockchain. This is not how it works. Now, this is already after we managed to convince banks and carriers and so many others to use the system. So it's both frustrating, because I'm a big believer that if someone does not understand what you have in mind, probably the problem is always the teacher, not the student, which means that if someone does not understand me, most probably the problem is mine. But proving them wrong is always a good thing. Now, specifically on the blockchain, and this is also something that relates a lot to at least my personal guidelines towards building up the wave, is you have to be practical. And the blockchain is filled with unbelievably impractical things that will require major technological breakthrough, which are currently basically like science fiction. So sticking to what is I would say, sticking to what we believe is the right way to go, and knowing that everyone else is more or less wrong. This is what keeps us going and makes us happy. We didn't have the happiest moment, which is to succeed, and we didn't have the lowest moment, which is to fail. So we are still in the middle somewhere.
Okay, maybe just for 1 second, I'll share my own happy and sad moment, just to keep this forum very, very honest and open. When I started first 3 years ago, we've raised $21 million, and we thought that we would create financial services for mainstream banks and everything. And that was 2017, and then 2018 came. If you remember that polar bear with the Bitcoin. So, and that was a complete shit show, because we were 70 people, and from being a profitable company, we became losing company. And I think one of the lowest moments was in early 19. I had to say goodbye to 54 people, which are, again, great people, and we try to find work for everyone. But as an entrepreneur, you have those moments. That was probably one of the lowest moments in the history of this company, but we still believe that we can actually do amazing stuff. And again, now, a year and a half after, we're working with one of the largest companies on a very interesting project. So just sharing my low moment in this specific startups. There are a lot of low moments in my life, but you can connect over Gmail and I'll give you that. May, I want to ask you to give maybe a tip for the founders here. You are one of the first employees in GK8, and as one of the first employees, you need to work with founders. And again, it's still a rather small startup at this point, under 50 people, let's say. So you're very close to the founders, and founders are known to be, they want to be right about everything. They understand the product the best. They know how you should do the marketing probably the best. They understand the technology. They started this. It's their baby. What challenges do you face when you work with founders that maybe you have more expertise in your field than them and you need to convince them? And maybe you can wrap it up with a tip for founders here in the audience of how to talk to their C-level directors, VPs, and understand that they might also have something to contribute.
So that's true. A lot of the founders do look at it, well, it is their baby, but it's also my baby. And when I joined GK8, it was very important for me to find a company that I can really bring my tone. So I was looking to work with a founding team that was very attentive, that was very open-minded to hear different opinions and different thoughts. And I find it here at GK8. So the team here are all security experts served in the top elite cybersecurity units in the Israeli Defense Force. And they know that sales is not their strength. And they're very attentive. So it was very important for me. Also in my previous company, I joined as the 7th employee. It was very important for me to bring the tone there. I would say as a founder, it's very important to be open-minded to hear different thoughts, because you can agree and disagree with anything, but you have to listen. You have to open your mind and hear what other people are thinking. Also for me, I would say as a front face of the company, I'm always hearing the customer feedback. So I can always give feedback to the product saying, this is what the customer wants. This is what we should put in the roadmap. This is what we see is becoming the new need in the market. This is the new hot thing. We have to push it. We have to develop it. So as customer facing representative, I have to all the time listen and bring it back to the founders so they could, I would say, think about what should be in the roadmap. Also, I would say it's kind of like Israeli thing to investigate everything, if we had a call, what was good, what was bad, how can we make it better for the next time? So we really try to bring that kind of like Air Force mentality here to GK8. And after every call we're doing, we constantly think, which message conveyed, which one didn't, what should we say better? Maybe we should change that slides. And it's very important when you're starting up to all the time change.
Yeah. Thanks, May. And just to refer to what you said, that Air Force mentality that after, even if you go to the restroom, then you need to investigate. Did you really have to go to the restroom? What was the result and stuff like that? So I'm sure it's a great time at GK8. But Lior, I wanna ask you something. Blockchain is a complex matter, and companies have great ideas, but sometimes they seem maybe complex to understand to an outsider. You're a VC that's in the blockchain, so you understand those concepts probably better than others. But I got here a very interesting question from the crowd saying, how do you explain technology to VCs? So I'm gonna tweak that a bit and ask you, what's the best way to explain a technology to a VC?
Yeah, so I would say, so my first statement is, don't explain the technology, explain the business. Okay, that's number one. If I always tell founders, if you tell me about your business and I don't even hear the word blockchain there, then we're already onto a good path. And we really, it's kind of like a game that we play with some of the founders that we due diligence with and that we talk to, in terms of really understanding, okay, what are the fundamentals of the business? Because, and again, going back to the idea of network effects, the idea of building platforms, and the idea of integrations with a variety of other players, et cetera, et cetera. And so the final product is not the technology. The technology is, it's kind of, if you're building a house, the technology is just the hammer, right? The finished product is the house. And so blockchain, or any other technology for that matter, is not to be explained. It's actually to be an assisting kind of tool for you to explain your business. So that's number one. But number two is, it's always hard to describe how that technology can fit into your business, and why that makes your business unique. And this is where I think that the expertise of a good CEO and a good CTO actually can come together in explaining to a VC exactly where the fundamentals fall, and where the technology actually comes into play.
Thank you. I have to say I completely agree. I wish we would have someone in the panel that disagrees, so we could argue a bit. But I think those are great tips. One of the largest VCs in Europe told me 2 years ago when we went fundraising, they told me, I don't want to hear the word blockchain in the first 2 meetings. If we can get those first 2 meetings without the word blockchain, we can have a 3rd meeting where you explain to me, why do you need blockchain for your startup? So I'm just echoing what you're saying. Okay, so I know it's early in the morning for the Israeli side, but I wanna challenge you a bit. This space is filled with weird stuff happening. Like in the last 6 months, we saw DeFi exploding with protocols that were called sushi, pasta, kimchi, and a few other types of food that I'm not sure are kosher here. But I want you as experts, I look at you as experts. I'm asking you to pick something in blockchain, in this crypto space, and just say, and call bullshit on that. Something that you see that you're saying, this is wrong, this should not happen here in this ecosystem, and it's taking us down. I'm opening this to any one of you if you want to start.
I'll let the other panelists start, because I'm still preparing something in my mind here.
Okay.
I think that sorry for jumping in, but I do enjoy that as an entrepreneur that had to fight on what is really blockchain used for. So I had to cover many of it. So first of all, I think that the majority of the initiatives are actually philosophical. They're not technological, and it doesn't matter what the technology, it doesn't make sense at all, regardless of the technology. But in practice, if we talk specifically on the blockchain, it's a major buzzword that is just used as salt to basically make everything taste a little better. So for example, that it is the most secure database. And in my perspective, security is not actually what it brings. Yes, it's built on many cryptographic principles, and we are using electronic signatures, which are also used in the cyber world, but it's used for a completely different story. So yes, the fact that you are using it as a secure database, there are much more efficient databases, which can be used in a much better way. So anything that would use the blockchain as a single node just to hash information on the blockchain, in my perspective, is just using a buzzword and using an inefficient database.
Thanks, Gadi. Maya, do you have something? I see your...
Yeah. I hear lately a lot private blockchain. So you want to use blockchain because it's transparent, it's immutable, nobody can change it. And it's got a lot of benefits. Well, it's got a lot of hurdles, as Gadi said, but that's the strengths of blockchain. And then private blockchain comes and said, okay, let's have just a limited amount of nodes, a limited amount of computers. That's a private blockchain. So basically, if you hack the majority of them, blockchain is not immutable anymore. So why would you use that? So I would challenge a private blockchain. That's my perspective, though.
Okay, I get that. I'm willing to argue about that because I'm not objective, because I'm part of the Libra project, and that's a private blockchain. But I'll just ask them to deactivate your Facebook account. Lior, do you have something?
Yeah, I have a lot of some things. So just on Mai's last point here, I definitely agree that not for all use cases would a private blockchain actually fit. But going into the point that I wanted to talk about. So to me, there are three properties in blockchain use cases that actually make a lot of sense, right? So the properties for blockchain are so if you need to enforce a single source of truth, if you need to reduce the cost of trust, and if you need to make interactions between systems more or less programmable, then this is what blockchain as a technology is good for. And so if your implementation does not require any of those properties, then that implementation would be strictly wrong or too costly or inefficient compared to what you're actually using the blockchain for. Because inherently, especially for let's say public blockchains, it's very expensive to use a blockchain. It's like Gadi said, it is not a secure database, and it's not supposed to be one. Well, actually, it might become one, a more robust database with time, but it's not supposed to be, just impenetrable. It needs to have those three properties. And so when honing on to, the kind of use cases that I see as strictly uninteresting to us as investors, we really tend to look at token networks that do not leverage I guess either the token, the community, in a way that actually makes sense, in a way that's actually adding those properties to a certain value chain. So if you're not enforcing a single source of truth, if you're not using the entire network in order to, I guess, incentivize some kind of use case, then you're just going in the wrong way.
Thanks, Lior. I wish all VCs were as coherent as you are. So a question here from Jimmy Thomas from the crowd, and Kayla, I did not miss your question, but I'll get to that in a second. I think Gadi, I'll refer this to you. The question is that we have an entrepreneur here, I believe, that has an idea, and he thinks this idea is great, but he's basically asking, who do I talk to about this? How do I start? How do I become Gadi?
Who wants to downgrade himself? We have to know this name. But in practice, you have to, it's just like anything. If you're opening a new shop, so you have to check the infrastructure, you have to check all the suppliers, you have to check all the customers, you have to check the market. The market is the most important thing. By the way, I just heard a good statistics that made a lot of sense to me, that it's 10 times harder. It's not statistics, but it's just a phrase, let's say like that. It's 10 times harder to get money from customers than from VCs. So I would focus on the customers, because once you get a customer who is willing to pay for this product, and paying is very important because ideas are basically 10 per dime, and moving from an idea to an actual use case requires a lot of work. And if in the end, no one is willing to pay for it, it's completely worthless. So I would focus there.
I appreciate that thought, but what's the first thing that he or she should do if they want to move forward with an idea?
Find his most cynic friend and show him the idea, because he's the only one that will tell the truth, or at least he will be able to verify the idea.
Okay.
Because friends are always supportive, but there are some bad friends which you need for that specific event.
Yeah. Oh, well, not bad friends, but good friends who can tell you
true friends. Yes.
Okay, so I'm picking up the AML KYC question that I got here, and I think maybe you're the most appropriate person to respond on that. I don't know, maybe Lior. Do you face any KYC AML challenges in this world on the blockchain that maybe banks are asking you to oversee some protocols like the travel rule for every transaction over $1,000, or do you find KYC AML being harder when talking in the blockchain ecosystem?
Well, we're working with companies that this is what they do. That's their core business. So it's not our core business. We're working with, for example, we just announced that we have a partnership with Chainalysis, which is one of the top providers globally. Many financial institutions are working with them. So I would say, yes, of course, it's a different game, but you have different companies who are addressing that pain. And you need to partner with those experts in that specific. So we are a cybersecurity expert. We're not an AML expert. So we're partnering with the top providers in the field. Let them solve that issue. And
when you receive money to your solution, and I think this is what the question maybe tries to figure out here. There's a lot of uncertainty. This money came from Bitcoin. This Bitcoin was used to buy drugs or something like that. Do you have like a filter that you send every transaction to be tested with Chainalysis if needed? Does that check the box enough for your customers, or are they giving you a hard time?
No, definitely. And also I can tell the different banks, their risk assessment, according to their chief risk officer, according to the protocol that they want, that's exactly what we comply. We're very flexible to comply with different banks' needs.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I want to ask, I think, Lior, right now, you said there are several verticals where you're focusing on right now, but can I ask you, what would the perfect future for blockchain companies would look like to you, let's say 10 years from now? Like when you close your eyes and you think, okay, in 10 years, at least 3 out of 10 companies I invested would be amazing, because the future is what?
First of all of our companies are going to be amazing. That's
yes.
Number one. The second point is, where is the future? Okay, so the future for blockchain to us, as we see it, is extremely bright, but perhaps in a different way. So I think that blockchain as a medium, or as a kind of niche technology, is very hot, and it's a very interesting topic right now. I think that as soon as first of all, development will increase, and as soon as use cases will become more demonstrated across a variety of different landscapes, then we're going to see exactly where blockchain is good and where blockchain is not good. And just today, you know where AI is great, and where even cloud is doing amazing things. I think the blockchain is going to do very similarly, or at least going to look very similarly to the outsider. Of course, there's going to be always a lot of, I guess, technicality to it, and it's always going to remain a technology that requires specialization, especially on the design, aspects, especially when, so for example, we invested in a company called Chainspace about 2 years ago, which is now part of Libra, as you mentioned, Ran. But I think what we saw there is that the amount of specialization that the academics and the entrepreneurs in that team really had was so extreme. And I believe that blockchain is going to continue to need, I guess, these highly specialized individuals in order to change the world. So where's the world going to be thanks to blockchain? I think it's going to be a more private blockchain, a more private world. I think it's going to be a lot more efficient, and I think that blockchain can actually sit right in the middle of these efficiencies and I guess these value adds. So I guess that's the very short way to answer that.
Thanks. Duncan from the crowd sent a note that's saying that I think he also believed that private blockchains / public, maybe it's a false dichotomy, and maybe it's not true to say something right now is a private blockchain, because in the future we will need to have interoperability between private and public blockchain, and that's the real challenge. I'll just reply to that saying, and that I think that's the approach that most large corporates have today. Especially, I can tell you that that's definitely the approach that EY, PwC, and Deloitte are having right now in their mindset, that they will help corporates create this maybe private thing, but they're focusing on how to take this and make this interoperable with the more public blockchains, the Ethereum maybe, or any other blockchain that we'll uncover. Okay, great. I wanted to ask a question actually to maybe all three of you. I think one of the most important things that you can do in a startup as an entrepreneur is make sure that your startup has some sort of a moat, right? It means that something that's defensible, something that your competitors doesn't have. something that is unique to you, that at least for the next, I don't know, certain time period, if any customer would choose a different solution, he would be wrong because he should have chosen you because he would make the benefit, or that mode somehow protects you. I want to ask, I guess, all three of you, if you could answer quickly, because I know time is running short. How do you, have you built that moat for your startup? If you can share, and if so, how do you think entrepreneurs should think about approaching this, this challenge? Gadi, Lior, anyone, please feel free to just jump in.
Yeah, so I can speak. So I don't run a startup, but we invested in a variety of entrepreneurs who are running one. And the idea of defensibility is probably the most central kind of core differentiator for us between you know, an investable company and a company that ultimately we're going to pass on. So I think that the idea of defensibility really goes back to what your core model is and what you're selling. But ultimately, I think that in blockchain networks, for example, I think that the network effects, and especially in platforms, right? So blockchain networks or even platforms that integrate blockchain networks, a core kind of defensible point there would be the network effects that could be created around such a platform, right? So a great example is how Facebook, you know, created incredible network effects. You know, the more people logged into Facebook and the more people joined Facebook, actually the more value you got out of it as a user, right? So that's great. And the second thing that we're looking for really is the longevity of competitive advantages, right? So whether it's a very, very strong and powerful brand that you're building, you know, like GK8 is currently doing, or, you know, early embedding in an industry like the shipping industry, like Gadi is currently working on. I think all of those are highly defensible points in actually sustaining those competitive advantages in the long term.
Sorry, Gadi, I'm sorry. I'll let you reply, but we really have like 1 more minute. So if you could keep it really, really short, and then we'll try to wrap this up.
Sure. So specifically for the blockchain technology, all startups, which makes sense, will build some kind of a network, just like Lior mentioned, which means that here specifically, it's even more challenging because you cannot look at, if I will get 10% of the market, it will be great, because with 10%, this means that someone else took 90%. So you have to aim for the 100% market share and then settle for a bit less. So it has to be multi-layers, technology, but also the market itself. Who are the important players to get so that the others will not be able to build a strong enough network?
Thank you. I'm sorry I didn't give you the opportunity to reply for this, but I've been asked to start wrapping this up. And I want to thank everyone who attended this. I want to thank May, Gadi, Lior, obviously, Omri, Uzi, and again, Ambassador for having us. I think that I will just say my personal, I don't know, mantra to the entrepreneurs here. This is my 9th startup. I have failed miserably 6 times. 1 time I was able to take a company public in the London Stock Exchange, and 1 time I made another exit in a fintech company. And that was a lot of hard work, professionalism, and tremendous amount of luck. All stars needs to align. But that being said, don't give up, be persistent, learn from other entrepreneurs. I keep doing that every day, and learn from your VCs and mentors and anyone. Take something from everyone and give something back as well. Thank you, everyone. Uzi, back to you.
Amazing. Ron, thank you so much for the wonderful moderation. And I really wish you that, you know, you can stop building ventures. That's really, you know. And I would like to thank our panelists also for really for inspiring all of us to keep pursuing our dreams, and to do so with the backup of the right investors for us. Thank you again, Blockchain Australia, for partnering with us on this event, on the successful blockchain bootcamp that we've recently completed. And to our friends in the Australian entrepreneurs who are with us today, I invite you to get in touch with us through Austrade or directly on our website. You can also submit, in our website, you can submit your company details, and by that you're getting added to our databases of companies. which our analysts can then review and connect to global business opportunities. And remember, don't say blockchain in the first 2 meetings. That's at least, that's my rule of thumb, and the rest will happen. So stay tuned for our next boot camps and events. Until then, everybody keep safe, keep well, and thank you again.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.